back to the next episode of this Healthy Life podcast. I'm very excited for my guest today. We do not get a lot of guests on this podcast that have recovered from Lyme disease. So Kara Truong is here to share her amazing story of how she got diagnosed with Lyme disease and was one of the lucky ones to overcome it and is in remission today. So Kara was a CPA. She moved from the city to the countryside during the pandemic, and that's when she encountered having Lyme disease, and it took her about a year and a half to recover. So she's here to share her wisdom, her story, and what that was like for her. So, Kara, welcome. So great to have you as a guest today.
Yes, thank you so much, Erica. I definitely read, all the material on your website and read your story several times throughout my journey,
Mhm.
and that was a huge encouragement and source of hope to me. So just, I really, really depended on that, and I'm just so
Oh,
excited to meet you today and to be able to connect with
yeah.
you. So that's super exciting for me.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. I have all my story and all the things that I did on my website and my blogs. And it kind of started as a way to track my recovery from Lyme disease and what I was doing and what wasn't working. And my hope was to just kind of be able to help people out there and
Hmm.
show them some different treatments that are available and maybe some different paths that can help them heal. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
And so I'd love to start kind of diving into your Lyme journey. So
Hmm.
like tell us a little bit about what happened, like how
Hmm.
you got Lyme, how you got diagnosed
Hmm.
and what that was like for you.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I moved from the city to the country, like you said, in June of 2021 after the pandemic. So I moved with myself and my family from Philadelphia to New Hampshire. And um, so that's the transition that we made. And of course, it was beautiful at first. Everything in the country, the mountains are really beautiful. The rivers are gorgeous, the lakes, enjoying all of that outdoor recreation, the hiking. So of course, at first, it was very beautiful and we were enjoying it. I had my fourth child here in New Hampshire. So my fourth child was born in April of 2022. And so at that point in time, I was 32 years old and I was 100% healthy. So I never had a health problem in my whole life. Really just never encountered any symptoms or any health problem. I really was functioning quite well. Um, I was working, mother of four children, so I had a lot of energy. I had pretty sharp mental clarity. My body was kind of functioning the way that it's supposed to function and was enabling me to do everything that I had to do in life. But then in May of 2022, when my baby was 1 month old, we went to our local science center and I was bit by a tick there. So I was bit by a tick on the baby's 1 month birthday on Mother's Day in May of 2022. And that was the first tick bite that I ever had in my whole life. And I thought that I took all the proper steps at that time because I removed the tick in a few hours and I monitored for a bullseye rash. I monitored for any symptoms and I seemed to be fine. I was not under the impression that I should take doxycycline for that type of tick bite. So I did not take doxycycline. And I was under the impression that I took all the right steps and that I probably was fine. And that was May of 2022. So then I was fine and I had no symptoms until August. In August of 2022, I began to get symptoms. And I tried to not think about it too much, but it was in the back of my mind. I knew that Lyme disease existed.
And what were some of the initial symptoms that you started experiencing in August?
Right, so my mild symptoms in August were some joint pain, some skin sensitivity where my skin felt sensitive to temperature and touch, and also heart palpitations. I had some heart palpitations. Yes. Then on Labor Day weekend in September, I all of a sudden was hit with life-changing symptoms. So that is really when I just, I didn't know what happened to me. It just really hit me like a ton of bricks. So I lost the ability to sleep completely. Really just a flip switched and I lost the ability to sleep. I couldn't fall asleep and I couldn't stay asleep. And the skin sensitivity really intensified where it really became like a burning sensation all across my body. So my skin felt like it was burning. And really, the first night when that hit me, I had to lay in bed and put wet towels all over my skin because to try to get some relief from that. So it really was causing me a lot of distress. My heart was racing out of nowhere. I was just sitting still, and my heart would all of a sudden start racing to very, very high pulse rate. um, my hearing was hit, so I got ringing in my ears all of a sudden, and my hearing became very sensitive to sound. My eyes became very sensitive to the light. I got brain fog, so I had a very hazy feeling, kind of very hazy and foggy, like I wasn't really clear. My orientation of my head and my brain was not clearly oriented to the room around me. I had headaches, a feeling of pressure in my head, night sweats, air hunger, like a feeling that I really couldn't breathe comfortably, and then weight loss. Actually, in the first month and a half, I lost about 20 pounds, and I didn't even know. I just stepped on the scale one day and I had lost almost 20 pounds because my appetite and my digestion, it kind of all just turned off. So really, I was hit with kind of severe physical symptoms, like nothing I had ever experienced before in my life. And that resulted in anxiety and a feeling of panic. What is happening to me? What happened? How do I fix this? And how do I return back to my normal feelings in my body and my normal functioning in my life? hmm Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just really hit with all the symptoms. So I had one emergency room visit and one urgent care visit, but they really didn't help me that much. I had, they gave me some IV fluids and they didn't help me that much. So they did do the CDC tests for Lyme at that time. And honestly, I can't even tell you what the results of those were. I don't remember because I had one friend who knew so much and could tell me that it's very important to get out of pocket private testing for Lyme disease.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes. So
Yeah,
I don't
unfortunately,
remember.
the CDC tests are like LabCorp and Quest lives miss over 50% of Lyme cases. And, there's so many people I've talked to that I'm like, your symptoms sound like Lyme or tick-borne disease. Have you been tested by Lyme? And they're like, oh, yeah, it was negative. I'm like, well, what test was it? Because I think it's so important, such an important issue with Lyme disease that the testing is so inaccurate. And that if you're just going to use like LabCorp or Quest, those tests are notorious for missing 50% of the cases. And so it's so important to use some of this better testing that's available and out there that not a lot of practitioners are using.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. Right. So almost I disregarded the answers to those tests because I had already ordered the other test.
Mhm,
So I'm very thankful,
good.
yes, yes. So I'm so thankful, to the person who gave me that guidance. So I did schedule an appointment with a Lyme literate doctor in New Hampshire, but that appointment was scheduled for November. So there was a 2-month waiting list. But in the meantime, because you have to navigate all of this, there was an online natural health clinic that offered the Vibrant Wellness testing. So I had to make an appointment with them and order the Vibrant Wellness testing, where they mailed me a kit in the mail. And I had to drive to a special lab in Massachusetts and get this blood drawn to take the Vibrant Wellness test. So I did that, and by September 30th of 2022, I had my results from Vibrant Wellness, which confirmed that I had Borrelia burgdorferi, which is the Lyme spirochete, and the co-infections Bartonella and Babesia. Right. So my symptom onset was August of 2022, and by September 30th, 2022, I knew exactly what I had. And I'm very
Mhm.
thankful for that because that is a huge achievement, right? A lot of
Yeah,
people a lot of
absolutely.
people take years to land there, so I'm very thankful. And I would
Yeah.
love to share that information to anyone out there about the proper testing and the proper diagnosis, because I feel lucky to have landed on that so quickly, and I hope that that information can benefit, other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's like myself, it took me about 2 years to get properly diagnosed. And, like you said, like those symptoms come on so quickly and they're so debilitating. And, you went to the urgent care and the ER and they didn't know how to properly diagnose you, even though you're on the East Coast. And so some of these people that are living in other states where, Lyme is everywhere, but may not be as well known in the medical community where you are. Or say you took a trip to the East Coast and you're back in New Mexico, they're not going to be looking for Lyme disease there. So it's really important to kind of have this awareness. If you're having these quickly set of symptoms that kind of come on quickly and that are very debilitating, chances are you probably are dealing with some sort of tick-borne disease. So you were very lucky to have that knowledge and awareness and be able to, within about 4 or 5 months or so, be diagnosed properly and be able to start your treatments.
I know. Yes, I'm very thankful, and that's one of the reasons why I I have a, kind of a mission or a passion to help other people because I feel like it was kind of lucky for me
Yeah.
in this journey, whereas other people don't experience that. And so I
Hmm.
kind of have a little bit of a passion for it now.
Mhm. Well,
you
that's
know.
great. The more awareness we can bring to this disease and, awareness for testing and awareness for what the symptoms are like, I think, obviously I'm a huge advocate for that as well, having gone through my journey. So, okay, so you got diagnosed finally, you did the proper testing, found out you had two co-infections and Lyme. So what was kind of like your next step? What sort of treatments did you start doing? What kind of doctors did you start working with to kind of get yourself back to wellness?
In November, I went to a Lyme literate naturopathic doctor in New Hampshire. And when I went there, he explained all the different methods for treatment. He has several different options. So he explained his primary preferred treatment method, which is something that is actually not really well known, even on the online communities or anywhere. So he explained that he likes to use a mineral treatment where you nebulize minerals, and the minerals have some special properties that make them anti-spirochetal, and they are minerals with a special delivery method. And so he likes to use that, and that is his preferred treatment method. It's something that you have to pay out of pocket for. It's something that he treated 180 people with, and 12 naturopathic doctors across the U.S. use it. So it's not something that's very well known, and there it's actually kind of a controversial treatment where people have heated opinions on it, on either side of the fence. So that's his preferred treatment method, and I considered all of the options and did some online research, and I decided against that. I thought there was not really much evidence for it from what I could find online, and from what I looked at, I thought antibiotics and herbs were a good course of action to take at that time. So I chose doxycycline and herbs. So I started taking that after my appointment with the Lyme literate naturopathic doctor. And of course, at this time I was in distress with all the symptoms, really debilitated. I had 4 children, including a newborn baby. So it was really the biggest struggle and trial of my entire life. And before I started taking all of that, I had to stop breastfeeding my baby. So that really, just it already had been so terrible and so difficult. Obviously, you imagine the year after you have a baby to be a certain way, but then really it turned out the opposite of what I thought. And then to make matters worse, I was forced to stop breastfeeding my baby. So really, just I was, it was pretty low. I was in a pretty low point.
Yeah. And you don't feel good and you're not sleeping, and at least you have an answer to what's wrong with you. But, like getting hit with a Lyme diagnosis can be very kind of stressful and debilitating and depressing as well, because all of a sudden you're getting diagnosed with this disease that supposedly isn't curable, and you've been suffering for 6 months, like trying to figure out what it is. So that on top of already, going through postpartum with a child too, can be extremely difficult.
Definitely, definitely. Yes. Yes. So I started taking doxycycline and herbs, and I was pretty hopeful. I thought, this is great. I start taking it and I'm going to see the symptoms start to go away. I'm going to get some improvement. And I was pretty hopeful at that point in time. I was happy to have some medicines in my hand and, to take them according to the schedule. But it was pretty terrible for me that I did not feel any better. The symptoms that were distressing me so much, they didn't go away. And that was a really difficult time for me, because the symptoms even intensified, and then that hope, the glimmer of hope that I had that things were going to get better with the treatment, then that that kind of went away, and that was really difficult for me. So that was December, January, February, and I was taking the treatment for a while and I was not getting any improvement. That contributed to me really hitting a rock bottom in all ways, with the physical symptoms, with my spirits. So I'm a CPA and an accountant, and at that time, February in 2023, that's when I was supposed to start my seasonal job. I was supposed to go back to work after having a baby. I had a seasonal tax job. I kind of thought things would go back to normal by that time. That was a kind of a landmark that I had in my brain. Hopefully, we kind of get to an improved stage by that date. But now I was faced with starting a job, you know, while suffering from all the debilitating symptoms. So I had no idea what to do. Should I start my job? Should I cancel it? I went ahead and I started the job, but I really couldn't do it because I had staticky vision. My vision went kind of staticky. So, I had hearing problems and my vision and the brain fog and headache and my skin was burning and I
Hard
couldn't
to do
sleep.
taxes when you feel like that.
How can being an accountant is all about being
Yeah.
detail oriented and really focused and sitting and thinking clearly, and that was absolutely not what I was able to do. I was almost panicking and in distress actually at that time. So I tried to start it, but I couldn't do it, especially with the insomnia. Like, I was often awake the entire night. Then how are you going to start working at 8 a.m. when you can't sleep? So I quit my job and I was really at a rock bottom. And at that point, honestly, I was kind of down spiraling into despair at that point, where I thought the treatment is not working, I'm suffering, I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel at this point. I think I might be suffering for the rest of my life, and what
What am I gonna
really
do?
do I have left? What am I going
Yeah.
to do? What am I going to look forward to? What am I going to enjoy? Because I can't even sit in my house and feel good, really. So that was really the rock bottom for me, in all ways. Like, I was kind of in despair, and it's when you talk to people with Lyme disease, they really often land there. So it's so real that people, one illness can take someone from a really great place in life to the depths of despair, and
Yep,
that is really
absolutely.
sad that that can
And
happen to
quickly,
anybody.
and so quickly too.
Yes, quickly. So it happened to me, but it happens to a lot of other people too. So it's just so terrible, really terrible. And so I knew I needed to do something to lift myself up from the rock bottom. So my husband really encouraged me to do brain retraining. So I did the brain retraining with Vital Side, and that taught me about focusing on the positives. So that was really key to me at that point, just for lifting me up off the rock bottom. And I decided that I could focus on sitting in the sun and taking long walks around my block, sitting by the river and listening to the water, the river. So with the brain retraining, I learned how to, rather than sitting in the depths of despair, to focus on, okay, I can enjoy sitting in the sun and sitting by the river and taking long walks. So that was good. That was important for me because you can't sit in the depths of despair for too long. It's just impossible.
Not when you're trying to heal too, right? Like, and you're not going to heal when you're in that place of despair. You have to kind of shift your mindset, shift your kind of outlook on things, and want to get better and focus on getting better instead of just kind of, sitting in that despair.
Definitely. Yes. So then that was about March and April, and I continued to take the herbs. I stopped taking the antibiotics because I had already taken it for a long time and I wasn't really getting any improvements. So then I decided to do herbs only at that stage, and which is an option on the whole list of different options of what to do. So I still wasn't really getting any improvement, but I was just taking the herbs and focusing on those things that made me happy and that I could do at that time. Then in May of 2023, I tried the carnivore diet. So I only ate beef and lamb for the entire month. So, I know, like, everyone tries really hard and researches things online, everything that can help. So that was a very extreme diet that I tried, and I had a little bit of improvement, tiny bit of improvement. Had a little improvement in sleeping and in headaches. So that was good.
Did you stick with it? Did you stick with it longer than a month, or were the benefits minimal that you didn't decide to kind of keep going with it?
The thing that I tried next resulted in some positive improvements where it was not necessary for me to stay on that diet. Thank God. Thank
Good.
God. Yes. So now it's like, to explain where I was at this point, I was really not functioning as a human being, So like, for example, whenever I would go to church or see people in my community or see friends that I knew when I was healthy, I would just break down crying, because I felt destroyed as a human being. So I was not functioning as a human, in all my interactions with other people, in e- every day I was just trying to get through the day, how to
Mhm.
manage the symptoms, how to
Mhm.
survive that
Kind of
day.
just survival mode, not really like
Yeah,
living
yes, my
mode.
husband was kind of like pushing me around the house, like, okay, stop thinking about that, no, now go do this. Like, he would have to kind of push me out of bed in the morning sometimes. So I was really not functioning as a normal human being. In that month of May 2023, I had 2 good days where I went to my son's soccer game and I sat in the sun at the soccer game, and then that's when I thought, all right, I would say this is a good day actually. Like I'm doing something, I feel okay, you know. But I would look at my cell phone, and if it's 3 cloudy days, then I would look forward to the sunshine on day 4, because I knew I enjoyed sitting in the sun. So I was really, really not functioning as a human being. I never wore makeup, and that is representative of the fact that why would I want to look good if I feel so bad? Obviously, so I never blew dry my hair. I never wore regular clothes. I wore pajamas all the time, because I had this skin burning sensation across my body. So I'm trying to describe like how I was really not functioning as a normal human being. And I did feel desperate. I felt desperate to feel better. So um so this is, and I thought it's not working. The herbs, whatever I'm taking is not working. So in the desperate effort to feel better, I decided to try the experimental treatment with the Lyme literate naturopathic doctor. So I decided that out of my own desperation to feel better, and in conjunction with my husband said, we have 4 children. This is the Lyme literate naturopathic doctor that we have in our lives. This is something that he's recommending that we try. A lot of these Lyme treatments are experimental in nature, and really, we should just try it. We have no improvement for 10 months. You're not functioning as a normal human being. We don't really have any evidence to say that what you're already taking is resulting in improvement. So the experimental treatment was a 60-day treatment, and so if that doesn't work, I can go back to taking the herbs and maybe antibiotics after the 60 days. So out of desperation and just trying to make good decisions with myself and my husband, we decided that I would go ahead and try the experimental treatment. Yes. So I went ahead and I did it. And I had that little glimmer of hope, like, okay, I'm trying something new and maybe it will work, maybe. So, um, and I spoke to other patients of the Lyme literate naturopathic doctor who had a positive result from this treatment. And I found some other people online who had positive results from the treatment. So, in trying to make a good decision for myself, I thought it was a reasonable thing to try, like given all of the information available to me. Yes, so I did it. So in June and July of 2023, I nebulized minerals. I nebulized inorganic minerals every day for 60 days. I took it 24 hours apart for 60 days. And I started to experience my first improvements during that time.
Wow, that's
Yes,
amazing.
yes, yes, I know. Thank God. So, really, on day 5 of this treatment, I spontaneously put on makeup, put on a dress, and blew dry my hair. I have a photo.
Mhm.
Like, I have a photo from
Mhm.
that day.
Mhm.
Yes. Um, Sorry. It's like,
It's okay.
yeah. So, yeah, so like I was really not functioning as a human being for 10 months, and then during the 60 days, step by step, normal human function spontaneously came back to me, like as the symptoms decreased, pretty much. Yes. So those were some of the first improvements that I had. I actually experienced like a clearing of the brain fog. Like we're on day 25, I could sit at my desk and actually organize my desk, and like throw away papers that needed to be thrown away, and like organize, like put bills in a certain folder, you know. Um, I remember that was day 25 where I experienced kind of a clearing of the brain fog for the first time. And where I had a thought like, oh, I have a friend in Ireland. Like I would love to call her and schedule a trip to go see her in Ireland. And that is absolutely a thought that I never thought for 10 months, while I was like suffering and in distress. Um, I actually scheduled an appointment to get a manicure with myself and my daughter. So we went to a nail salon and got a manicure. And, and um and I thought I should go shopping for some summer dresses. I went to a store and I went shopping for some summer dresses. Um, I so my family visits me here in New Hampshire, and while I was healthy, I love to kind of entertain them and like bring them around to the different sightseeing um, places in New Hampshire. So my dad came to visit, and I actually, instead of sitting with him and crying the whole time, I actually brought him to a historical hotel and showed him around. Like I was experiencing some symptoms, but I felt the desire to bring my dad out to see this historical hotel. And that was returning to something that I loved to do back before I got sick. Um, yeah. So, the symptoms started to go away, and my normal thoughts and functioning started to come back spontaneously.
Did you have a lot of die off with it, or was it just kind of, like a lot of times when you do Lyme treatment, you get like the Herx reaction and you get die off versus like, just starting to feel better. What was your experience with it? Did you just start kind of having symptom resolution, or did you have die off before you felt better with the treatment?
I think the best way to explain that is so certain symptoms just started to go away. So the brain fog went away, the skin burning sensation went away, thank God. I have never felt that again, so it went away during those 60 days. And the insomnia, it went away. I was able to sleep the entire first 3 weeks of the treatment. I slept the entire time, you
Amazing.
know, so those symptoms went away. Um, at the end of the 60 days, I only had 2 symptoms left, literally only 2 symptoms. I had a headache and I still had the ringing in my ears. I would say the headache intensified during the 60 days. So I think maybe that is some type of die-off reaction because I do know that the spirochetes love the brain and, the headache, the brain fog,
Hmm. Hmm.
symptoms that are a little difficult for an accountant who, that's
Yeah.
like usually what you like to focus on. Um,
Hmm.
so I did have an intensification, I would say, of the headache. And then that's when I came to the end of the 60 days. And I had made dramatic improvements, but I still had those 2 symptoms. And when I spoke to the doctor and everyone else who did this treatment, they said that the final healing takes place 6 months after the treatment. That's just how it works. And um, I approached everything with a very high level of skepticism. Everything that everyone told me, I did not believe them at first, and I didn't think it was true. And you know, so
Hmm.
when everything they told me, I thought, I'm sure this is not true. But they told me 6 months after the treatment is when you feel better, and I took that with a grain of salt. But 6 months after the treatment, my headache went away.
Hmm. That's awesome.
So yes, so I would say the headache intensified throughout the 60 days and was pretty bad in maybe the month or 2 afterwards, but then it decreased. It decreased in intensity. I tracked it very carefully on a calendar, it
Hmm.
decreased in intensity after, those 1 to 2 months afterwards until 6 months after the treatment. So then that brings us to February of 2024, which was about 6 months after the treatment when the headache went away and I was left only with some ringing in my ears. So now from February of 2024 to October of 2024, I literally only have some ringing in my ears, and I'm not suffering anymore,
That's amazing.
Yes. Mhm.
Amazing.
Yes. Like I am not suffering anymore, and I am functioning in my normal life, So I can function as a human being. I can I can do all the things that a normal it's so funny how the goal is to be ordinary, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You just want to
Like the
feel normal
goal,
again.
yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
such an ordinary goal. It almost feels a little silly to say
Hmm.
like, yeah, whoo, I'm normal again.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
it's a major achievement, to
Yeah.
feel normal, to function normally, to interact with other people normally, in
Hmm.
a happy manner,
Hmm.
and
And to feel
to
like
not be
yourself
suffering.
again. And to feel like yourself
Yes.
again too,
Definitely, and to not be suffering,
Absolutely.
and not approach every day of just trying to get through the day and let me manage through this day and hope I can survive the day. But now I can plan for the future. I can feel excited about the future. I'm very excited about many of the things going on in my life right now, and that's amazing. So I've made major improvements and I'm not suffering anymore. But I did suffer for 1.5 years, from August of 2022 until February of 2024. So I'm just super happy, and I do have a mission now to share, whatever I can offer that helps someone else to reduce their level of suffering. I think that's important because I do encounter people on these online forums who say my skin is burning, like my skin is burning, and I'm in distress and I'm in the depths of the despair because of it. And then if I can share with them a nugget of hope, like I had that, like I know what that's like, and I don't have that anymore, then that feels really really meaningful to me. It's really something that is takes a little effort for me at this point, but it has a big
Hmm.
impact.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And then,
Yes.
so are you doing any sort of like maintenance treatments right now, or are you pretty much just in a good space after you did the nebulizing that, you have like the minor ear ringing in your ears, but otherwise you're pretty much symptom free?
So since August of 2023, I've only taken one thing. So I do continue to take a mineral supplement. I take not the aggressive dose of it, but I take more of a maintenance dose of it, and I do continue to take that. And actually, that's something that was not recommended by my Lyme literate naturopathic doctor. That's something that I decided to do myself based on my own research. So I
Hmm.
do take a smaller dose um of the mineral supplement now on an ongoing
Hmm.
basis, and
Just orally, not with the nebulizer, right?
I
Just
take
an
it
oral
orally.
supplement. Okay.
I take it orally, and I'm comfortable with taking it the rest of my life if I need to. Minerals are something that we're depleted of and that our body
Absolutely.
needs, and it's good for every cell in our body. So,
Hmm.
I would be comfortable with taking it the rest of my life. And like this mineral supplement, I treated my entire family with it. Because obviously a lot of things with Lyme are kind of experimental, but some people do say it's in the body fluids, in the saliva, it could be transmitted. So like I treated my husband with it and my family, and that I've heard that that can contribute to the healing, that if the spirochetes have spread at all in the family, then that would really help with not being re-exposed and reinfected.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, so
getting
I
sick
did
from it.
the nebulization in June and July of 2023, but since then, on my own choice, based on my own research, I take a maintenance oral dose from August of 2023 until now, and I'm comfortable with continuing to take that, for the rest of my life if and it's fine.
Yeah,
Almost like a vitamin. I
as
don't
long as you need it. Well, it's
know.
easy. You just got to take one pill. So I want to shift gears a little bit. So, like you said, like a lot of times after someone goes through the kind of these like life-changing situations and despair and feels at like ultimate low, it's really kind of hard back, as much as you say like, oh, I want to get back to my normal life, like it's really hard to just kind of go back to normal afterwards because you've experienced something so grave, right? So, how has your life changed now that you've recovered? Obviously like it sounds like you're still working as a CPA, which is great, but like what other kind of fundamental changes have you experienced in your life now that you have kind of this new normal and this new lens on life and have experienced something so intense, coming out of that?
Right, definitely. Yes. Of course it has changed me completely. I really do feel like a completely different person. My husband thinks I'm a different person. So, yes, it is. It feels like being reborn almost as a teenager,
Mhm.
honestly. Um, yes.
The new
Actually,
lease on life, right?
yeah, yes. All right. So
Second
what do you
chance
do
at
with that?
life.
What do you do as a
Yeah.
new lease on life? Um,
It-
Right. So actually, I'm not working as a CPA because I have a 2-year-old. I have a 2-year-old baby who's not really in school. So honestly, I'm like a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. So thankfully, thank you to my husband. So I'm like a stay-at-home mom. I'm not working as a CPA currently. Um, and I've been changed in every different aspect of my character and my faith and my relationships and my hobbies, my job. But one really fun thing that I love to talk about and that's really been helping me in this stage is I started like a very small entertainment business here in New Hampshire because it's a tourist area here, and it's a recreational area, a tourist area. So all of everything for the tourists, that is really what drives the economy. Yes, so that is one way that the trial has completely changed me into a different person and something that's really giving me a lot of happiness right now, in addition to feeling like a normal human being. So, during my 60 days of my treatment, while I was focusing on the long walks and the sunshine, I actually broke my foot. So I
Oh my
broke my
gosh.
foot and I was unable to walk. So because the walking was providing me with a lot of positive, it was good for my mental health, taking a long walk every day. But then when I broke my foot, I was unable to do my primary coping mechanism of taking walks every day. So then I had to go back to everything I learned with the vital side brain retraining and say, what can I focus on as a coping mechanism now because I can't walk and my foot is broken? So I asked my friends, does anyone know if there's karaoke around here anywhere? Yes. So with my broken foot, from that week on, myself and all of my friends, we actually went to karaoke every single week. Yes, and that provided me with so much happiness and positive momentum. From that time on, this was during the last stage of my healing from August of 2023 until now, until February 2024, when I still was struggling with the head pressure and headache, but I had made a lot of improvements, and I was really happy for that. So, I ended up going to a lot of live music in my area and singing at karaoke and enjoying all the music because I had a broken foot. And because that was such a positive experience for me and I was enjoying it, now I started my own business where I host karaoke in a few different places in my area. And obviously, that's not like a primary source of income. It's just something that has been a creative outlet and something that I really
Something
enjoy.
that's
And it
healing
provides,
healing for you.
yes, yes, it
Yeah.
kind of provides a boost of happiness. It's something that I can bond over with my friends and create happy memories. And I'm just pretty happy about it. So like once or twice a week, I host karaoke events in my
That's
area.
awesome.
Yes.
What's your favorite song to karaoke?
Favorite song at karaoke? I think Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. That's probably like a really
That's a good
safe
one.
option. That's like a good one. Everyone
That's a good
loves that
one.
song. It's a good
That's a
song
good
to warm
one.
up your voice with. Kind of like not too vocally challenging.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it. uh,
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. So, what does my life look like now? So I'm functioning as a normal human being in my relationships, in my being a mother, in my basically in everything, in being a stay-at-home mom, taking care of my 4 children, functioning normally, and I have a passion for helping people who are suffering, and anything from my story that can help in reducing their suffering. I have a mission and a passion with that. And I have a kind of a fun hobby side business that I'm enjoying working on as a creative outlet, where I'm hosting karaoke and getting involved with some music things in my area. And that's something I never would have done, several years ago when I'm working as an accountant. And yeah, so my life definitely looks different now, but I'm kind of landing in a place where I'm pretty happy about it, and I'm thinking, these things I never would have landed with this particular set of new passions, if I didn't have that big trial in my life. So I'm definitely different, but I'm excited about where all of this is leading me now. Hmm.
Awesome. And then as we wrap up, if you have what's one piece of advice you have someone that's maybe newly diagnosed or maybe not even diagnosed yet, that's still kind of, struggling to figure out, they're kind of hitting that rock bottom. What's one piece of solid gold advice that you can give them to kind of hang on and stick with it and, hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for their journey?
Hmm. Yeah. So my one key piece of advice, honestly, the one thing that made the big difference for me was taking that treatment, So I would have to say that I do recommend that treatment, and it turned everything around for me, and it gave me so many improvements. The only improvement that I experienced, in the whole journey, and then really led me to where I am today. And honestly, I wish I would have taken the Lyme literate naturopathic doctor's opinion in the
Mm-hmm.
first place when I went there in
Mm-hmm.
November of 2022. If I would have taken it in that day, then I would have started experiencing those improvements in 5 days after that appointment. So um, I think that everything unfolded the way it's supposed to, like that's fine. Now all this experience, I can use it to share with other people. But honestly, I wish I would have taken his advice, the doctor's advice. You're supposed to
Yeah.
follow doctor's advice, and I wish I would have taken that in the first place in November. And I tried several things that didn't work, but then I tried something that did work, and I've heard a lot of good stories from other people who have taken this, and I'm so happy to feel that strongly and that passionate about it that I found something that worked for me and has worked for other people. And I'm excited to suggest that to other people as something to try. If someone is suffering with the symptoms that I was suffering with, then I'm excited to share that I think that this particular treatment can really help with those symptoms. Hmm.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I'm sure that this is going to help other people out there, like you said, struggling maybe with the same symptoms or different symptoms that, are feeling that despair, feeling that hopelessness. And I think it's so good to just kind of hear these positive stories of people that do get better. I mean, Lyme and co-infections are horrible, debilitating, completely derail your life. So the more stories we can get out there, people that have recovered and kind of like turn this into a passion that are helping people, I think it helps so many more than we'll even realize. So thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for sharing your story too. Yes, thank you
Yeah,
so much. That's the
absolutely.
only way I found you. I never would have found
I'm
you
glad
other
you
than that.
did. I'm glad you did.
So
And if people want to find you online and follow along with your journey, how can they find you?
yeah, so my Facebook profile or my Instagram profile, those are really the easiest ways to connect. And I'm so happy to kind of I have some paperwork that I received from my doctor. I can just easily send that as a photo and just kind of lead someone in the direction that I went. And I'm so happy to take a few minutes to do that. The amount of effort for me to do that is pretty low, but I strongly feel that the impact is pretty high. So I'm so happy to do that.
Awesome. And we'll go ahead and link to all your social media on the show notes as well. So, Cora, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, Erica.
Me too. Thank you.